Alright, in our last video, we saw how to assign a static IP address on the Ubuntu server. Now, we are going to install DNS on the Ubuntu server. So Ubuntu has DNS called BIND9. So I'm going to configure BIND9 as my primary DNS server. So what we will configure a BIND9 as the primary DNS server for a domain name of facetnet.com.au. So once it's done, then we can just check and see whether it can resolve. And if it can resolve, then DNS server is ready. Let's first install the bind. So to install, sudo apt install bind9. And yes, so bind is installing on this machine. So we found some issues with internet connections. It failed to. So let's do a quick ping to com. You can see it's pinging, so it should. Yes. All right, let's do a quick update. Sudo update. So once update is done, let's do installation again. Right. So let's do a quick upgrade. Yes. So I'm just upgrading as well. So once it's done, let's move on. So until that, I'm going to pause this one. So this is going to take about a couple of minutes. So the upgrade is completed. So let's start the bind installation. So before we start just install bind, let's do a quick checkup on the system information. So let's quickly go to check the hostname. So first let's check the host file, and we can see localhost, and it got 12700 slash and then it says DC. So since it's a localhost, it's DC, it's fine, but this is going to be my domain controller. So we need to add the server name here. Sorry, server IP address, but I need to open through sudo. Right. Right. So I'm going to add the IP address of this machine. So the IP address is 192.168.32.50 is my IP address, and the name of this machine, dc.facet.com.au, and it is DC. Right, so I have attached the information. So DC is 127 as well as so we don't really need 127. I can delete this line. Right, so this is pretty good now. So let's save this configuration, right? And let's see one more configuration. We are etc hostname. The previous one we checked at host files, which is the DNS information file. Now we are checking the hostname. So in hostname we have got DC, that's fine. So we got the hostname is good. Right, let's check the cloud config file to see whether the name is preserved or not, right? So to do that, again, etc cloud.config, right? So it says preserved hostname false. I'm going to say true. So what do you, okay, again, I'll have to come through the sudo, right? Sudo, let's do sudo, and let's go on to here, insert. I'm going to say it's true. So now we have set up the hostname true. So let's reboot. Right. And once it's done, we'll make sure the nameserver IP address is set to their IP address on the resolve config file. So let's go and check that one as well. So that's fine. Let's go to vi etc resolv.conf file, right? So again, sorry, I'll have to come through sudo default. Right. So you can see here, name server set to 127.0.0.53. I'm going to change this to reflect my IP address. So the IP I'm going to have 192.168.32.50, right? And option trust DNS0 trust add. I don't need trust add. I'm just going to remove that, and I'm going to say search, which is where your domain name. So if someone look for it, so faceitnet.com.au, faceitnet.com.au, ENS0. That's good. So let's save this configuration on resolve config file. So the next one is to install the commands. So I have got all these step-by-step guide here in the text document. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the command and I'm going to run it, because if I type it, it's going to take time. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy one by one. Copy. Oh, it's console, right? So I need to use either SSH or I have to I have to type it. Yeah, let's see one more time. Copy. No, it doesn't work. So apt sudo apt-get install BIND9 BIND9 utilities BIND9 doc with dependencies. I'm sorry, doc. That's why doc. Right. Let's see. Unable to fetch the file. So the problem here, we can see Ubuntu is ignoring after operation. This space will be used. That's fine. Let's do working google.com. Okay. The reason, why the Google is not working, it's just because we have changed the DNS server, right? Because we changed the DNS server to our own IP address, so that's the reason it's not working. So what I'm going to do for the time being, I'm going to just change the DNS server IP address here .2. Yeah, there you go, it works. So I'll come back and change it once I've finished all this installation. Right. Okay, so that's done. So I'll go back and change the resolve.conf file. Insert right. So the next command I'm going to use here, I'm going to move cd bind I'm going to copy the configuration default file, right? So cp named.conf.local to named.conf.local.back file. All right, so sudo. Similarly, I'm going to configure sudo cp. I'm going to back up the files, right? db.local to db.forward dot named.conf.au. So let me check the spelling. db.local to db4.facetnet.com.au. db.local. And so as you can see here, db.local will be moved to db.local.au. Right. Enter. Similarly, I'm going to do db.local, db reverse. So I'm looking reverse.facetnet.com. Right. Let's create the zone file. So sudo dir etc bind zones. Right. So I'm going to move the files to b dot. So db dot gt dot app.com.au ceinet.au zone. Let me see this. Do we have mkdir zones? Yeah, we have. So I'm going to use sudo md. The file that I'm going to move dc to. Oh, sorry. The previously I've used a wrong command. So, to reb first. Cool. Right. So we have moved the file, and let's open up vi named.conf.local file. So this is my original file. Right. In this file, what I'm going to do, I need to copy everything from here. Alright, so this is going to be the challenge. How do I copy? If I don't have Telnet access, this is not going to be possible. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly use SSH. So to use SSH, I'm going to use PuTTY. So the IP address of this Ubuntu server is 192.168.32.50. I'm going to use SSH, open, accept. So, right. So I'm in the file SSH. So I'm going to use hereafter. I'm going to use the SSH commands, right? So it will make it easy. Right. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the file sudo vi. Sudo vi. Sorry, we need to move to cd etc bind and sudo vi dot local, right? named.conf.local. Right. Yeah, edit anyway, so hit E. Right, I'm just gonna mute the audio. Right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna copy this. Let's let's go here, insert. Right, after this, I'm gonna paste it. So hopefully I've done everything properly. Right, I've done the configuration. If we get any error message, we'll come back and fix it. Right, so we copied, and I'm going to just save this. Right, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to clear the screen and then check to confirm. Options, directory. I believe we haven't added the line here. Line was missing. Right, everything else is good, but that line was recursive is just allow. Yep. So I need to add this line. So let's insert. Oh, there you go. The line is here. Sorry, everything is here. So there's nothing to worry. Cool. So we have added the record file, name config file, and then what we're going to do, I'm going to move on to the zone folder to edit forward and reverse lookup files. To do that, let's do cd zone, and I'm going to edit the file. So sudo vi db.forward lookup zone. Right. As you can see, it has got some default information. So hit enter. I'm just going to delete everything what we have here, and I'm going to add the lines that I've got here. Right, so I've prepared my own file, so I'm just going to use that one here. So you can see I have got my configuration file here. It starts from here and it goes up to here. This is my forward lookup zone. You can see domain name, localhost, IP address, IPv6 address, and then my IP address. Good. Done. Similarly, I'm going to do the reverse lookup zone as well. Right. Let's delete everything from the reverse lookup zone. And I'm going to add the lines that I've copied here. Pointer record up to here. Copy. Right. Let's save. Done. So pretty much we are at the end of the configuration. Let's go restart the services. Copy. Restart. Yep. Completed. Let's quickly check the service status. So service bind it's failed. What's the error message? Option status failure. I found out the problem. What happens here? So what happens is I forgot to or I have added the files in the wrong order. So what happens is in the vi name.config, this should be the command. So this is my name.config file. So what I've done is I've updated the wrong config option file. So let's so to fix this one, what I've done is I moved the name config.local to named config.options. So let's quickly check that. So if you go to name config.options, you will see the configuration files here. So I'm just going to look at the local file. So in the local file, we got no configuration. So I'm just going to copy this file in my local configuration file, copy, paste, and let's save this configuration file. Now let's go and restart. Right, the file restarted. Let's check status. So we still have a missing semicolon in the configuration line 7. Let's have a look. I'm sure what happens is here we have the problem. So AU, the semicolon, here the semicolon. Oh, sorry, a colon. Let's save now. Restart. But let's check the status. Still it says where we have a missing colon at ARPA. Let's see, where is it? Oh, here you go. The problem is, I found it. You know what? There you go. Hopefully this will fix it. Right, default path. Alright, so that's fixed. Now we have an unexpected master line. There's an unexpected token at line 8. Yep, that's the wrong colon again. So you can see the problems here. Restart. Hopefully now we see. Yep, perfect. So this time we have got the service active running. So we are good. Now the DNS is pretty much configured and it's running, right? So how do we confirm this is all good? We can just do sort of a quick testing, right? And so we can ping or we can do some lookup commands to see whether it's all working, right? Yeah. Is it good? Right, that's perfect. Yeah, let's move on to the next one, right? Since DNS is done, we can move on to the Active Directory installation. So what we have done so far here, we install the DNS services. So I have given the commands here. So the first option, the first step is to check the IP, right? So check the IP address. Then second, check your host files and add this configuration in your host file, right? So let me check and add these files. Then the third, check your host name. As long as if your host name reflects the right name, it's fine. Then the fourth one, check your cloud configurations and make sure you change these Let me put this as nicely fifth reboot for your configurations. So, right, that's perfect. Then move on to your resolve.conf file and add your file server name. Keep in mind when you do this configuration, the best option is to provide both gateway and this one so that you will have your internet access. Or what we can do is we can just give loopback as well. So if you look at my resolve.config file here, vi etc, I've got both. So give the both option to make sure you got internet access as well. Nameserver 53. I'll just leave the default one. Right. So that's done. And then next, install the required services. Once it installed, copy the bind file, copy, make a directory for zone file, and then 8th step, create your zone file. I'm sorry, your named.conf file. Then make sure you create your next file and add the following lines. So that's page 9. Then move on to your newly created zone file. Open up your editor or forward lookup zone file. You don't need that line, so I'm just saying there. And delete everything and add the relevant information. Now go to your reverse lookup file, add the lines. Last, simply restart and check your status. Right, here you have 168.192, so you can see 168.192, 168.192. Yep. So if you check, these are the last line too. Alright, you can see the error message just because in my previous configuration, as you have seen, I have used the different names on the files db.fwd.facetnet.com.au and db.rev reverse lookup rev.facetnet.com.au, but unfortunately I've used the different commands dc. But while I was preparing and while I was troubleshooting, I have renamed them to db. But again here in this command, I'm not using the command db because I'm using the command dc as I prepared before. But when I was doing the troubleshooting later on, I fixed the problem. So as you can see, if you use db.fwd.facetnet.com.au or db.rev.facetnet.com.au, that should work. But keep in mind, your files, when you created the forward lookup and reverse lookup file, you should have created them with the same name db.r forward fwd.facetnet.com.au or db.rev.facetnet.com.au. Do not use dc dot because dc was a mistake, so it should be db, right? My hostname is dc, but the forward lookup zone and the reverse lookup zone has files names called db database, db dot forward lookup zone fwd.facetnet.com.au, db.rev.facetnet.com.au. So if you use that commands, it should give you the right answer when you do the testing with the commands, right? I'm sure that you would try with the right commands. If you find something difficult, just do comment there. At the same time, I'll copy the right configuration files in my description. Just copy and paste it from the description. It should be okay. Right. So that's all. Thanks for watching. I'll make sure on my next video I'll install the Samba and I'll complete the Active Directory installation.